in California and Georgia, USA at 5:15 p.m. Coordinated Universal Time, at Victoria, Australia at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and at Cambridge City and London, the United Kingdom, at 6 a.m. British Summer Time. This is to inform everyone that we are now live via Zoom and of course, live stream via Facebook.
recognizing the critical role of science and technology in economic development and progress. The Balik Scientist Act, or Republic Act 11035, was signed into law last June 2018 by President Rodrigo Roa Duterte.
This is actually putting into law a program that has been started by the Department of Science and Technology almost 40 years ago. But we need some legal support so that we can implement it in a better way. The Balik scientists will have easier time in terms of coming here to the Philippines and rendering services.
Who is the Balik scientist?
Experience and expertise of Filipinos who have made good practice of being scientists abroad, so that they can share whatever they have in terms of knowledge and wisdom to our own institutions, our own researchers.
My role and responsibility of a Balik scientist is to be not just a teacher or a facilitator, but also a pusher of innovations within the program.
Balik scientists are given support by the government for their stay in the country and are likewise provided with a wide array of benefits to ensure their maximum output.
The best incentives or privileges or benefits are having to be exposed with our farmers.
My greatest privilege would be doing collaborative work with fellow Filipinos.
The DOST, as the leading agency in charge of the Balik Scientist program, is tasked to facilitate the placement of the Balik Scientist among its priority areas from its sub-agencies. P-Card, PCHRD, P-Shared, Partnering with the DOST are the host institutions, private or public entities, providing the appropriate resources to the Balik scientist in the completion of their research activities and other tasks.
I think the role of the institution is to give the space or the laboratory needed for the program or the project.
Working together, the DOST, the Balik scientists, and the host institutions have proven the importance of collaboration and cooperation, critical of any nation's vision for success.
I am an advocate of Balik Scientist program. Okay, being one, I really truly felt that Balik Scientists would be able to help in uplifting the economic growth of the country.
My hopes is to really contribute to the space agency. It's very, very pragmatic, and we will need everybody's help, and also promulgate the STEM program here in the Philippines.
We really need to encourage other Balik scientists or other scientists abroad to give their time. They need to give back and help the country.
With the enactment of the Balik Scientist Act, the country is looking towards a stronger and more solid science and technology foundation, propelling the nation to further heights. Change has come indeed for science and technology. Science for change. Science for the people.
Muling isang mainit na pagbati Pilipinas. And this is Nam Ganotisi, who is your host for this afternoon's DOST special program for our Virology and Vaccine Institute of the Philippines, or VIP, Balik Scientists, courtesy call to the DOST Secretary. Today, gathered before us are exemptionally clever, talented men and women in virology, the scientific discipline of the biology of viruses and viral diseases. They are here with us, kapit kamay, no, in braving the world of virus research. So they will be received by the brightest of minds in science, our DOST Secretary, Dr. Fortunato T. de la Peña, the champion of the VIP program of this VIP, is his brainchild. With our secretary, we have here Undersecretary for Research and Development, Dr. Rowena Cristina L. Guevara, who it seems has pledged 24/7 her time and skills to DOST. Also with us this afternoon is Dr. Jaime C. Montoya, the Executive Director of the Philippine Council for Health, Research and Development, or the PCHRD, which is one of the sectoral planning councils of DOST and the monitoring agency for the VIP program and the BSP Secretariat. Also with us this afternoon is our very own director here at ITDI, Dr. Annabel V. Briones, who is one of the facilitators of this VIP program. Also with us, of course, is Dr. Reynaldo V. Abora, the Executive Director of the Philippine Council for Agriculture, Aquatic and Natural Resources, Research and Development, and also one of the sectoral planning councils of DOST and monitoring agency for the VIP program and the BSP Secretariat. And of course, also joining us this afternoon are our 7 Balik Scientists who are making this courtesy call on our DOST Secretary, Dr. Fortunato T. de la Peña, and these include, first on our list, Dr. Teodoro M. Fajardo Jr. Of the National Health Services England Royal London Hospital in London City at the United Kingdom. Next, we have here Dr. Mayra T Hosmelio of the Department of Pathology at the University of Cambridge in Cambridge City, United Kingdom. Also with us is Dr. Leo Vico Elag of Mulawin Creek Ventures, Proprietary Limited in Victoria, Australia. Also with us is Dr. Christina Laura M. Layson of the Southeast Poultry Research Laboratory in Athens City, Georgia, USA. Next, we also have here Dr. Alpidio Cesar B. Nadala Jr. of the Diagnostics for the Real World Limited in San Jose City, California, USA. We also have here Dr. Lourdes M. Nadala of the Diagnostics for the Real World Limited in San Jose City, California. We also have here Dr. Homer D. Pantua of the Infectious Diseases Department of Genetech Incorporated in South San Francisco City, California, USA. At makakasama rin po natin ngayong hapon ang mga sumusunod na kinatawan ng Research Institute for Tropical Medicine or RITM na sina Dr. Celia Carlos and Dr. Fidelino Malbas, Dr. Catolino Ikatlo, and Dr. Catherine Masangkay. We also have guests from St. Luke's Medical Center na sina Dr. Rodolfo Pagkatipunan and Dr. Maria Therese Dimamay. At sa lahat po ng ating mga kasamahan na nandito sa Zoom at mga nanonood po sa YouTube and Facebook, muli isang magandang araw. Alright, moving on. To apprise us of what is at VIP and to welcome us, let us welcome on our screen the indefatigable Dr. Jaime C. Montaya, the Executive Director of the Philippine Council for Health Research and Development and as a facilitator of the VIP program. Sir?
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today. Before we proceed, I would like to acknowledge the presence of our dear Secretary, Fortunato T. de la Peña, Undersecretary for Research and Development, Dr. Rowena Cristina Guevara, the Director of the Philippine Council for Agriculture, Aquatic, and Natural Resources Research and Development, Dr. Reynaldo Ebora, and the Director of the Industrial Technology Development Institute, Dr. Annabel Briones. To everyone at the ITDI, my deepest thanks for hosting this event. It is an honor for me to welcome everyone to this gathering, especially our Balik scientists who came home to help us establish and make the Virology and Vaccine Institute of the Philippines a reality. Despite the recent weather we've been having, the earthquakes, and of course, the Delta variant, somehow we still managed to have reasons to celebrate because just recently, the Philippines won its very first gold in the Olympics through Heidelin Diaz. Similarly for us, science and research folks in the Philippines, we are celebrating a victory of our own too. The House of Representatives has finally passed House Bill number 7494, the act that ensures that the Virology and Vaccine Institute of the Philippines will be established and funded by the government. This is a big win, especially in the field of virology and vaccine research. We hope that this work sparks our hope and will especially inspire our Balik scientists even more to help us turn this victory into streaks of significant and even more tangible triumphs. For more than 40 years, we have continuously encouraged our brilliant Filipino scientists who expanded their wings everywhere in the world to return to the Philippines and pass on to us what they have discovered and learned from their experiences in their countries. The institutionalization of the Balik Scientists program enabled us to broaden our assistance to our researchers and stimulate the creation of studies and innovations that aim to improve the quality of life of our fellow men. To our Balik scientists, Dr. Teodoro Fajardo Jr., Dr. Mayra Hosmelio, Dr. Leo de Vico Elag, Dr. Cristina Laura Leison, Dr. Elpidio Cesar Nadala Jr., Dr. Lourdes Nadala, and Dr. Homer Pantua. Maligayang pagbabalik, and thank you for sharing with us your talents, your time, and your knowledge, especially now when our country needs you the most. Your expertise in microbiology, immunology, infectious diseases, and vaccine development will greatly aid our country in combating this global health problem. And with the passing of the VIP Act of 2020, we are finally assured that the Virology Institute will not be just a dream. Ipagdasal po natin na magtuloy-tuloy po ang proyektong ito dahil para po ito sa ikauunlad at ikapapanatag ng loob ng ating mga mamamayan. Muli, magandang aghampo sa inyong lahat. Maraming salamat sa ating mga Balik scientists.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Jaime C. Montaya, for that warm welcome and for giving us an insight of what is VIP as well as for welcoming our 7 Balik scientists for this afternoon. Right? So, moving on to our next speaker for this afternoon, as with all the programs of ITDI, the day and the activity will not be complete without your guidance and determining presence. Please welcome on your screen, our Undersecretary for Research and Development, who does keep us ready and alert from time to time. So to formally open our activity this afternoon, again, please welcome Undersecretary Rowena Cristina L. Guevara. Ma'am.
Thank you. Secretary Fortunato de la Peña, our Balik Scientists, Dr. Teodoro Fajardo, Dr. Mayra Hosmelio, Dr. Vico Elag, Dr. Cristina Laura Leison, Dr. Elpidio Cesar Nadala, Dr. Lourdes Nadala, and Dr. Homer Pandua, Executive Directors of the Councils, Dr. Jimmy Montoya, Dr. Ray Ebora, ITDI Director, Dr. Annabel Briones, our friends in media and partners, colleagues and friends in DOST, St. Luke's Medical Center, and the Research Institute of Tropical Medicine, the Balik Scientists Program Team, magandang agham po sa inyong lahat. To our Balik Scientists, salamat at maligayang pagbalik sa ating minamahal na Pilipinas. Balik puso, balik Pilipinas, balik Scientists. The Balik Scientists Program of DOST is primarily designed to attract Filipino scientists to come home. The program aims to reverse the effect of brain drain, strengthen S&T capabilities, accelerate the flow of technologies, promote knowledge sharing, and most importantly, bring back the brains in the country. It encourages Filipino scientists, technologists, and experts to return to the country and share their expertise for its scientific, agro-industrial, and economic development, including developing our human capital in science, technology, and innovation. We are glad of your love for our country and your patriotism. With that, we are proud of your effort to join the Balik Scientists Program. Indeed, you have inspired many young scientists to pursue their respective career fields. Tinatanggap man ninyo ang hamon na makipagsapalaran sa ibang bansa, greener pastures ika nga. Gayunpaman, hindi ninyo kinalimutan ang Pilipinas. You continue to share your insights, experiences, and expertise even across oceans and mountains as our ambassadors for science, technology, and innovation. As we continue to face the threat of the COVID-19 pandemic, we at the scientific community are working together to find solutions to this global crisis. From healthcare and pharmaceutical industries and medical professionals to researchers and policymakers at kahit mga common na tao, we must work together and find ways to cope with this global health crisis. As we seek to establish the Virology and Vaccine Institute of the Philippines, or VIP, we are stepping up our efforts to study viruses and develop vaccines to equip us better for future health crises. Thus, we find it essential to find a pool of the best scientific minds in support of the country's initiative. May this commitment of support brought to us by our Balik scientists bear much fruit for the Philippines' science, technology, and innovation landscape, even beyond this COVID-19 pandemic. Laban po natin ito at ang karunungan at kahusayan ng ating mga Balik scientists ay lubos na makatutulong malutasan ang pagsubok na ito dulot ng pandemya. With this, may we all be safe and inspired by science, technology, and innovation. Welcome everyone. Have a safe and productive day. Magandang agham po sa inyong lahat.
All right. What a great start to the day, an inspiring and warm speech indeed. So we just heard from our Undersecretary, Rowena Cristina Guevara. So let's give her naman po a virtual clap since hindi nga tayo makapag-applause. So a virtual clap na lang. Okay. So moving on to our next speaker this afternoon, of course, in every DOST activity, he is there. He is as ubiquitous as the sun shining in each day. As our colleague, we feel activities are incomplete without him. So hindi ko na po papatagalin. With us today is our DOST Secretary, Fortunato T. de la Peña, who is joining us to accept and greet our 7 DOST Balik Scientists to the VIP program, as well as to apprise us on how our Balik Scientists are helping us in increase the national awareness about virus research. Please welcome again on screen, Dr. Fortunato T. de la Peña. Sir?
Thank you. My warmest welcome to the 7 Balik Scientists who are joining us for our initiatives in the Virology and Vaccine Institute of the Philippines. To Dr. Elpidio Nadala, Dr. Lourdes Nadala, Dr. Teodoro Fajardo, Dr. Mayra Hosmelio, Dr. Cristina Leison, Dr. Hormer Pantua, and Dr. Vico Elag, warmest welcome from all of us. I would also like to thank our co-workers who are here. Of course, Yusek Rowena Guevara or Yusek Geb, Dr. Jimmy Montoya of PCHRD, Dr. Ray Ebora of PICARD, Dr. Annabel Briones of ITDI, and I hope Aseclea Buendia is also here, who has been very active in terms of international cooperation. And to our co-workers from the other agencies, like Dr. Celia Carlos from RITM. We also have our colleagues from St. Luke's, from UP Manila. To all of our co-workers, I would always want to express my thanks to your support and the cooperation. Frankly, I heard the word Virology Institute first from a retiree of the Industrial Technology Development Institute. Even within the first outbreak of SARS-CoV-2, this person who retired from ITDI already mentioned to me the need for a virology Research Institute. If I may mention his name, he is Christopher Silverio, who retired from ITDI. Anyway, that word Virology Institute stuck to my mind. About a year ago, it was the first time that we had a meeting to discuss this particular move coming from DOST to establish a Virology Science and Technology Institute of the Philippines. Of course, Yusek Geb immediately took it upon herself to mobilize all of us, okay, towards this effort. And of course, our Dr. Jimmy Montoya, who is the MD, the only MD in DOST at that time. Okay, recently he has been joined by 2 MD PhDs at PCHRD. Was the one who really worked it out because he had the connections with the medical people, the people on infectious diseases, came up with the first draft, of course, with the help of ITDI. You know, ITDI, for those of you who may not have learned about the transformation in names at our department, ITDI is the original Bureau of Science established in 1901. Okay, and it has changed names several times. It became the National Institute of Science, National Institute of Science and Technology, and eventually, in the creation of DOST, it became the Industrial Technology Development Institute. Now, they actually have a pharmaceutical division for a long, long time until most of the people there retired and the budget became very, very small. And so it was sort of downgraded to a, I don't know what is the level now. It says, is it still a division or a section now?
Section 4.
Okay. And so I also said, what do we do with the pharmaceutical section of ITDI? And that is when we thought of involving ITDI more, shall we say, heavily in this endeavor. Now, we are happy that there were many lawmakers who immediately signified their support to sponsor legislation towards this purpose, both at the lower house and at the Senate. And from there on, we identified the locals in the Philippines who will be able to help, and of course the Filipinos in the international scene who can help us. Actually, the first lecture I heard about, okay, but I did not attend to that lecture, was a lecture given by Dr. Teodoro Fajardo upon the invitation of ITDI. If I recall correctly, that was the very first lecture that we announced. Okay, and after that, we had the names of the people present here among our Balik scientists. There are more actually, but of course, others probably have still some constraints or arrangements to make. Okay, to join the group. Now. There was then we had to go through a series of legislative procedures after we have submitted the or after the bills were presented to both houses. More active was the House of Representatives. Immediately they went into work. There was a committee on science and technology, a committee on health. Okay, then they had, of course, we had hearings jointly sponsored or called by the Health Committee and the Science and Technology Committee. There was also an intersector committee that was addressing COVID-19. And we had to face all these committees until finally we reached the Appropriations Committee, where we were really helped very much by Congressman Salceda. At the Health Committee, we had the very strong support from Congressman Angela Tan and Congressman, the one from Zambales, okay, who the lady Congressman from Zambales, who also helped. Montalia. And so by March actually of this year, we heard for the first time the president saying something about being self-sufficient in vaccines. And we took that as an opportunity to inform him about the Virology Science and Technology Institute initiative. And thereafter, he showed support for this initiative. Of course, he had to be briefed that this institute will not mass manufacture the vaccines. We explained to him the scenario that we have foreseen regarding the development of vaccines. And the Virology Institute is not going to be for vaccines only. There are therapeutics and there are diagnostic kits that we will have to develop. And so I think we have explained to him well that particular angle. So the other initiatives that we had to take were actually more on the operational side already. If we are thinking of a real, shall we say, state-of-the-art Virology Science and Technology Institute, we need to have facilities that will meet world standards. And that is how we started having a design. We started with an architect's concept, then, of course, put in more details, and we negotiated with the Basis Conversion Authority of the Philippines, BCDA, for us to be allocated an area within the Clark Green City, which is actually already part of Capas Tarlac. The Clark area is huge and it covers so many municipalities and straddles, I think, three provinces. You have Pampanga, you have Tarlac. I don't know whether Bataan is also included, but it's a big area. And so we were given an allocated area in the Clark Green City. Then we had to meet with the infrastructure cluster of cabinet to get their support in this facility that we envision to build once the law is passed. And luckily, we were able to convince the infrastructure cluster of the cabinet to approve our request for budget to construct the facility. So we went through all of this, and while the law has not been passed yet, DBM, okay, when they learned that, of course, the president was already interested in this institute, allocated something like 283 or thereabouts, 283 million for R&D, okay, that will initiate the work in the Virology Institute. So these are all under the management at the moment of the Industrial Technology Development Institute, but there are many collaborators or project implementers. I understand there are 8 projects covering studies on virus against humans, animals, and plants that have been approved under our R&D Grants in Aid program. So these are now in motion. And finally, when the president delivered his last SONA, last July 26, one of the statements he made was a call for the legislature to pass 2 particular bills was mentioned together. The Center for Disease Control, which we believe is which is pushed by the Department of Health, and the Virology and Vaccine Institute of the Philippines, which is sponsored or under the initiative of the Department of Science and Technology. So that is the background there that I can give you. The legislative, how do you call it? The legislative liaison group. This is actually the group between the legislative and the executive that determines the priority bills that will be passed. And they held a meeting, and we were happy to note that they included the Virology and Vaccine Institute among the priority bills, both supported by the legislative and the executive branch. And of course, media was also immediately picking up on all of this, and so there is more awareness at this point in time. And therefore, the arrival of our Balik Scientists is indeed very timely. I don't know whether it's coincidence, but this month, the whole month of August, we are devoting our interviews in our DOST report to Balik scientists who have stayed here for the last 2 Fridays. Well, including this Friday, the interviews of personalities on science and technology have been focused on our long-term Balik scientists. And it is really very inspiring and encouraging that more and more Filipinos are coming to help the country as Balik scientists. If there is one thing that I saw that really, shall we say, improved our ecosystem is the involvement of our Balik scientists in the different universities and institutions. We have supported what we call niche research centers in the regions, and many Balik scientists actually volunteered to help this, shall we say, regional research centers, which we believe will be the instrument for more inclusive and more sustainable development through science and technology. I have made a long welcome to all of you, but this is simply because I am so inspired by the decisions that you have made to support this institute for the good of our country. Maraming salamat po.
Ayan. So, thank you very much po, Secretary Fortunato T. de la Peña. Okay. So, moving on. With that message po of our secretary, no, mas parang lumalim pa yung pagkakaunawa ko on the rationale of the BIP. So if we're going to look at how ordinary people see and feel about the current public health crisis, then it is not actually difficult to understand why they may be suffering from the misinformation effect. So, as some may say, however, there will always be a way out. And for the VIP program, it is through the creation of national awareness with the help of our DOST Balik Scientists. So, before I share the screen to our 7 Balik Scientists this afternoon, please allow me to introduce them to everyone. So, first on our list, we have here Dr. Teodoro M. Fajardo Jr. He has doctorate degrees in molecular biology and public administration from the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, and is currently the team lead of molecular virology and bloodborne viruses of the National Health Services England Royal London Hospital in London City, the United Kingdom. Next, we have here Dr. Mayra T Hosmelio. She has a doctorate degree in molecular medical science and was a postdoctoral fellow in Professor Ian Goodfellow's laboratory, Division of Virology, Department of Virology, and now a research associate of the Department of Pathology at the University of Cambridge in Cambridge City, United Kingdom. Next, we have here Dr. Leo De Vico and Elag. He has a doctorate degree in microbiology and immunology. He used to be a postdoctoral research fellow in structural biology of viruses and viral proteins and is now the director of Mulawin Creek Ventures Proprietary Limited and Chief Scientific Officer of Serion Limited, both in Victoria, Australia. He is also the director of the Philippine Asian Biotechnology, R&D Incorporated, and non-executive director of Plentex Philippines Incorporated, Plentex Realty Incorporated, Plentex Agri-Milling Corporation, and Plentex Aquaculture Corporation. Next, we also have Dr. Christina Laura M. Layson. She has a doctorate degree in infectious diseases and is now a postdoctoral researcher at the Southeast Poultry Research Laboratory in Athens City, Georgia, USA. Next, we also have here Dr. Elpidio Cesar B. Nadala Jr. He has a doctorate degree in microbiology and animal virology and a postdoctorate degree in aquatic virology and medical biotechnology. He is now the Vice President for Research and Development of the Diagnostics for the Real World Limited in San Jose City, California, USA. Next, we also have here Dr. Lourdes M. Nadala.
Yeah.
She has a doctorate degree in microbiology and is now the Vice President for Regulatory Affairs, Quality Assurance of the Diagnostics for the Real World Limited in San Jose City, California, USA. And lastly, we have here Dr. Homer D. Pantua, is a doctor of veterinary medicine with a doctorate degree in biomedical sciences, specializing in immunology and virology. He is currently the Department Research Operation Laboratory Manager and Principal Scientific Researcher and Biology Team Leader of the Infectious Disease Department of Genetech Incorporation in South San Francisco City, California, USA, and concurrently the Chairman and CEO of BioAsset Corporation. And now to deliver their messages, please welcome on screen our first VIP Balik Scientist, Dr. Teodoro M. Fajardo Jr. Sir?
Sorry, I'm just checking on my video. All right, can you see me?
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you, and good morning in London, and good afternoon to the Philippines, and good evening in the US, or good afternoon, I don't know. Maraming salamat po sa mga messages from the Secretary of DOST, Dr. De La Peña, and Undersecretary Guevara. And of course, I'd like to acknowledge the presence of the Council Directors and ITDI Directors, Dr. Montoya and Dr. Briones. So maraming salamat sa napakagandang intro. Also, Salamat po sa mga to those who spearheaded the project of creating the BIP. At least now we are seeing a blink of light, and for the future of virology in the Philippines. This is really the start of something big for the field of vaccine and virology and molecular biology. So I remember in the initial stage of this project when I was talking to Asek Dayan and Dr. Briones. So when they asking me to join the Balik Scientists, I said, of course, yes, that was my plan. So when I was a postdoc and I was a student in PhD, I always wanted to come back to the Philippines to work. But then I was also always thinking to work where? I don't know where. So because my expertise is RNA virology, I don't know in the Philippines if they work on RNA virology. I don't even know where. So now I know. So now my expertise can be shared to the Philippines. So to of course, to the Filipino people and to the young scientists there. And also when this was initiated by the DOST, I was having an apprehension if the bill is going to be approved on time because of the pandemic, and also knowing that the Congress doesn't move that fast when they want to create or formulate a bill. So I was actually elated when I heard in the news that it was passed on the third reading and it was certified urgent by the president. So for now, it's like it's really a light at the end of the tunnel, right? So when I was starting as a postdoc and as a student, I was actually a victim of brain drain. I wanted to go back to the Philippines, as I said, but now I'm really excited that this BIP will be a reality, really. So again, I would like to thank the DOST officials and fans and its councils, and also the employees for giving me the chance to serve in the Philippine government again, because I was with the government before. I was working with the Department of Health and of course RITM, FDA, and the National Reference Center for HIV, STD, and STIs in the San Lazaro Hospital. So I would like to thank also the people who are contributing to this, and also the Filipino people once again. And this is building a legacy that will last for a whole generation. This will be a legacy for the lifetime. This will help shape the future of the virus research in the country and vaccinology. So now Filipino virologists will have a powerful voice and the mechanism and the means to be a center of excellence and make mark in the virus world. So we will be at the forefront of the virus research, be it the plant, animal, or human viruses. And of course, that includes vaccine research. I'll do my best to help as my capacity as an RNA virologist to help the country, my beloved Philippines, as it prepares for a new dawn in the field of virology and molecular biology and biotechnology. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Fajardo, for your message. Pa-virtual clap naman po sa ating mga nanonood dito sa Zoom. Ayan. Thank you very much po. So we just heard from Dr. Teodoro M. Fajardo Jr. So moving on to our next scientist who will give her message is no other than Dr. Mayra T Hosmelio of the Department of Pathology, University of Cambridge in Cambridge City, United Kingdom. Ma'am?
Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. My name is Dr. Mayra T Hosmelio, and I am a proud Filipino from Rosario, Batangas. I am currently a virologist working at the University of Cambridge in the UK, where I study different viruses, including Zika virus, norovirus, and most recently, COVID-19. And I am also currently spending my time trying to characterize the different coronavirus variants. Over the last 18 months, I have been involved in trying to I've been part of a team who were responsible for the identification of emerging coronavirus variants. And we've been working with local companies who were finding ways to find preventions for COVID-19 infection. I am actually very fortunate that I've been able to work in some of the world's leading institutes. Filipinos are renowned for their hard work and positive outlook. And these are characteristics which I think have been very suitable to be effective scientists. I consider myself as an ambassador of Filipino scientists abroad. And it has always been really my dream to be able to come back home and support young Filipino scientists. I feel very honored to be part of the Balik Scientists program, to be able to contribute in promoting scientific research in the Philippines and also help in develop young Filipino scientists. It's really a real pleasure to meet everyone here, the other Balik scientists, and also the Honorable Fortunato de la Peña. And I really want to thank you for taking your time to interact with us today. Thank you very much.
Wow, so thank you very much, Dr. Mayra Hosmelio. So, virtual clap naman po para kay Dr. Mayra. And so thank you very much for your message. And moving on to our next scientist, is no other than Dr. Leo Vico and Elag of Mulawin Creek Ventures Proprietary Limited in Victoria, Australia. Please welcome on screen Dr. Leo Vico and Elag, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much for the kind introduction, and thank you very much, Honorable De La Peña, as well as Yusek Gev and Dr. Tony Jeannie. When I first heard of the VIP, it was, I think, in the middle of the pandemic. We were together with PASE trying to coordinate how we could help the Philippines. My background, I did my PhD in microbiology immunology, working with a bacteriophage, PHX-174, and then did postdoctoral studies determining the three-dimensional structure by X-ray crystallography and cryo-electron microscopy. And it turns out I just calculated that was almost 30 years ago. Just shows you how old I am. But what's interesting, though, is I made a pivot, not to outside of virology, but crossed the Atlantic Ocean, I did in the US, and joined a small biotech company, Morphosis, working on antibodies. And that's where I discovered that my passion was actually in early stage biotechnology and startup companies. And that's what I've been doing, and I realized for the past 27 years. So when it came up, and I'd have a tendency to change fields after every 3 to 6 years. So when the pandemic hit last year, I realized that I was already on my 7th year of the startup we co-founded, Xeria Unlimited, and it was about time to shift. And there was a bit coincidence that they were forming this VIP. So when I was invited, of course, I was honored. And early this year, I told my colleagues that I would have to cut down my time at Xeria Unlimited because I have to commit some time with this virtual Balik scientist. And then with the pandemic, I realized that even though I was doing different fields, virology in the beginning, and then moved from different aspects of biology and metabolic disease and inflammation, but actually they seem to be connected with COVID in one way or the other. So I think with this, I hope to contribute and synthesize this collection of dots and hope to implement that and contribute that to the VIP. I started working with a group of Dr. Annabelle. We've been having weekly meetings every week, and also started to renew contacts with old colleagues to help out to bring like electron microscopy. We had a conference call about a couple of weeks ago to help with the VIP. And one of the things, although I've been away for about 36 years, actually I spent more Christmases in the Philippines than overseas. And in a way, I'm a bit balik scientist because I do a lot of collaborations. And one of the things which inspired me going home was actually the junior scientists. And one of the inspirations I have is they almost like they're graduate students, even though the resources are limited in the Philippines. And that has always struck me every time I go home when I discuss this with the junior scientists. And it actually brought memories again, because we were supposed to have a meeting this week with Dr. Annabelle's group. And one of the junior scientists said, we can't make it because you're busy this week with PCHRD week, I guess. And they told me that whether we could have our meeting tomorrow afternoon. And it was a Saturday, and that I thought was a sign of dedication. And I think I owe them, or at least we owe them, that to return the favor with that dedication. So I see a lot of hope that with the resources now being applied to it, that will support the younger generation. It's just to do at least our little part to help uplift them as well. So hopefully with that, I wish us every support, and I'd be glad to work together with fellow Balik scientists and renew contacts as well and move forward. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you very much, Dr. Leo Devico Elag. So, bigyan naman po natin siya ng virtual clap. Ayan. So, again, thank you po, Dr. Leo Devico Elag. Next on our list, scientist is no other than Dr. Christina Laura M. Layson of the Southeast Poultry Research Laboratory in Athens City, Georgia, USA. Ma'am?
Hi, thank you for the introduction. Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, or good evening. This is very early morning for us, but this is totally worth it. I just wanted to start off with when I first heard about the VIP. I was actually skeptical, I'm not gonna lie. I was actually kind of skeptical. I was like, is this really real? Is this maybe like some dream that it's coming true? But you know, it's just, now that it's coming together, just shows how much dedication and work all the people that are present on this call, and also the people who are not, have really put so much effort into making this institute possible. And so I was just a real privilege to be here and to show up and share our expertise with you. And I know that this pandemic has really exposed a lot of vulnerabilities that we have. That's, it really shows all of the weakest things that we have. And I think having this VIP was really a step in the right direction. And I know there's also a crisis right now, like with the COVID-19, and we should totally deal with that. But let's also not forget that there's also other outbreaks out there, not just in humans, but also in animals. So like the ongoing African swine fever outbreak, the dengue outbreak, the HIV epidemic. So let's not forget about that too, and they all need attention. And so, I just wanted to say I'm really excited for this effort, and it's a real honor and a privilege to be in the presence of amazing scientists and colleagues, and thank you. It's a real honor. It's a big privilege for me. Thank you.
Wow, so thank you very much, Dr. Christina Layson, for that message, and bigyan naman din po natin siya ng virtual clap. Right, so moving on to our next scientist who will give his message is no other than Dr. Elpidio Cesar B. Nadala Jr. of the Diagnostics for the Real World Limited in San Jose City, California, USA. So, sir, it is now your turn.
Hello, everyone. I'm very grateful to be part of this group. Thank you very much to ITDI and to DOST. I do see some familiar faces, like I've seen Vic Elag's name a lot in UPLB at the top of the chemistry list of exam results. Very brilliant scientist. And Ray Iborra, of course, I remember you. Hello. So I'm your typical scholar ng bayan, from high school all the way to college. I really was supported by the Philippines. And so when I went abroad to pursue my grad studies, this was in a virology lab in the University of Hawaii. I immediately started doing diagnostics development type work. So a lot of my background from how many years ago? 30 plus years ago, has been diagnostics development. And this involved all kinds of viruses, bacteria, toxins, you name it, because I joined this after my postdocs in Singapore and Cambridge. I joined this food safety company in Seattle where they were doing testing for most of the food supply here in the US. However, they were buying their kits. All of their diagnostic tests were bought from third parties. So my task when I joined the company, according to the owner who talked to me, was to start an R&D group and make our own test kits. And in the 10 years I was there, all of the tests that they were doing for viruses, for bacteria, for toxins in food were developed in-house. And so the company basically grew very big because we were paying 10% the cost of the tests we were doing, which you talk millions of tests. So this reminds me of the situation here in the Philippines, where we don't have enough testing. Why? Because it's so expensive. And if you look at all of these tests that they do, they're not really worth 1,000 pesos. They're like, should be 200, 300 pesos each, these RT-PCR. But because we buy everything, we buy ready-made kits for nucleic acid extraction, for the RT-PCR, it makes it very expensive. So my dream, and I'm so happy that I'm part of this group, is to come back to the Philippines and make sure we establish a diagnostic development unit where we can make everything we need for testing. These are all either antibody-based tests, antigen tests, or nucleic acid tests. All these enzymes that are used in these tests, we can make them ourselves and get them very cheaply, okay? And the technology nowadays is that you just need to know the sequence of the genome of your target, and you can make the test very fast. In fact, the company we have now, the DRW, we heard about SARS-CoV in January. February, we started working on it. By April, we were shipping out kits to the UK. And now we have produced 1 million tests for them and have 2 million more they're asking for. And these tests are being used in hospitals because it's a 2-hour test maximum, 1.5 hours. And when they have people come into emergency room and they want to know the status, they can test them. And that's the kind of test we need over there, not the test that you'll find out 2 days later. What will the hospitals do? People will be staying outside, lining up in the emergency room. Anyway, so that's my thing is I want to really help establish a diagnostic development unit for the Virology and Vaccine Institute of the Philippines. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Cesar Nadala Jr. for that message. So bigyan din naman natin ng virtual clap si Dr. Nadala Jr. Thank you. So moving on to our next scientist who will give her message. Let us all welcome on screen Dr. Lourdes M. Nadala of the Diagnostics for the Real World Limited in San Jose City, California, USA. Ma'am?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank Secretary de la Peña for the very warm welcome remarks and Yusek Guevara for her message, and the other members of the council like Dr. Montoya, Dr. Iborra, who's a former colleague and also a former boss at Biotech, and of course, Dr. Briones, who has been very accommodating and very welcoming in all the meetings that we had. And last but not the least, my fellow Balik scientists, who I'm very lucky and happy to be among them to work and help in the Virology Institute of the Philippines. So when my other half, Cesar, and I heard about the VIP in sometime in December, it was from also a Balik scientist himself, Dr. Bahet. That was the first time we heard about the BIP. So with the name, we thought like it was he was probably pulling our leg. But then we realized that it's really an institute that was being established. But at that time, I think it was still going through Congress. So it was, I think, I would say, very timely because we were also thinking of going back and trying to think of a way to help. And we were thinking of where to go. We were thinking of UP Visayas, where Cesar comes, or Biotech, where I came before. So it was very timely, I think. And so when we were approached by Dr. Briones, of course, we were very happy and very excited to join the VIP. So I took my graduate studies at the University of Hawaii. And at that time, I was involved on working with shrimp viruses. So when I came home after my PhD, I worked actually in collaboration with BIFAR to set up the satellite labs all over the Philippines because at that time they were sending samples to the main lab in Manila. So you could imagine how much not dry ice, but ice that they would have to put to preserve the samples. So we thought of bringing the labs to the different regions. So I'm very happy to mention that it has actually expanded to other pathogens. So it started with the white spot syndrome virus, but then now it tests all kinds of bacterial pathogens, viral pathogens, and even chemical toxins, for example. So I have been away for like 22 years, but I have maintained my contact with BIFAR and also with the Philippine Society for Microbiology. So every time I have a chance, I go and give seminars or lectures. And so after I went back to the Philippines, I left again in 2000, in the year 2000, and took a postdoc at the University of Cambridge. And at that time, I was working in R&D lab, and we were working on a project called Viral Discovery Project. So we were trying to isolate and identify the causative agent of a disease which was causing low CD4 count in patients, but were HIV negative. But it turns out that it was really not HIV negative, but it was a different, like the so-called variant or recombinant. So in the end, it was still an HIV. So with that project, I was responsible for a BSL-3 laboratory. So I was working days on end in the P3 lab. And then after that, I was working with the Diagnostics Development Unit, developing tests for Africa or other resource-limited settings. So our first product was a Chlamydia rapid test, which we did a lot of collaboration on clinical trials in Iloilo. And in fact, it was where we launched the product sometime in 2006 or 7, I think. And then we moved on to a nucleic acid-based test, which we call SAMBA, which has been rolled out in Africa for HIV diagnosis in babies and also for viral load monitoring. So from the bench, I moved to regulatory and clinical trials and regulatory. And that's when I realized that R&D should be working hand in hand with regulatory quality, because we have to start from the beginning. When designing a product, you have to already have a clear path or design goals to be able to achieve at the end when you have the product and it's ready for marketing. So it would be too late to think about all these regulatory hurdles and quality requirements when we think of it even at the middle or at the end of the development. So I hope that I will be able to contribute in those areas. And also my passion is on culture collection and preservation of microorganisms. So I worked at biotech for 20 years. We established the Philippine National Collection of Microorganisms. So I envision the BIP to have a state-of-the-art virus collection, if it's in part of the budget, and also be involved in regulatory submission. So I'm thinking ahead. So with diagnostics, that's my strength, and I hope I can impart this also to our young scientists. So I was also very happy that our seminars are broadcasted to other outside of DOST, because the interest from the students, they ask a lot of questions, which are really very good questions. So even if you can inspire one, at least even just one of them, and become also a scientist, that's, for me, that's already an icing on the cake. So with that, I'd like to thank for this opportunity, and I hope I can be able to help in any way I can. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Lourdes M. Nadala, for that message. So let us give Dr. Lourdes Nadala a virtual clap naman po. Thank you very much. So moving on to our last but not the least scientist, who will give his message for this afternoon is no other than Dr. Homer D. Pantua of the Infectious Disease Department of Genetech Incorporated in South San Francisco City, California, USA. So let's all welcome on screen Dr. Homer D. Pantua, sir.
Isang mapagpalang araw, gabi o madaling araw sa inyong lahat. Isang mapagpalang agham na rin, ika nga ni Yusek Guevara. Maraming salamat po. My background is I started my infectious disease research career with the Research Institute for Tropical Medicine, and then I came here in the United States to pursue a degree in virology and immunology, where I work on virus-like particle, where I develop a platform which was licensed by a company that makes COVID vaccine right now. And after that, I joined a pharmaceutical company, and for the past almost 15 years, I've been working on antiviral and antibacterial drug discovery, which I think I could really help our country or the Virology and Vaccine Institute in terms of drug discovery and development. I am also leading a group in the Philippines where we address diagnostics and animal health Specifically, we're looking into providing solutions to the African swine fever in collaboration with Picard and Dr. Annabel Briones and Dr. Reynaldo Ebora's group. But I have two messages for everyone and the whole Filipinos. First is a message of thanks, and second is a message of appeal. So first, I would like to thank the leadership of the Department of Science and Technology, Honorable Secretary Fortunato de la Peña, Undersecretary Rowena Guevara, and directors Dr. Reynaldo Ebora, Dr. Simon Montoya, and Drs. Annabel Briones. And thank you for this initiative. I salute you. And thank you to the Filipino people. My next message is also thank you to these 7 Balik scientists. I consider this the lucky 7, but hopefully this lucky 7 is not enough. So my next message is a message of appeal. I appeal to the Philippine government to further support this initiative. This, as everyone have said, this could be a legacy for many generations to come. And another appeal is an appeal to all scientists, Filipino scientists in the Philippines and abroad, to hear the call of the Department of Science and Technology to help build this Virology and Vaccine Institute. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you very much po for that message, Dr. Homer. And bigyan naman po natin siya ng isang virtual clap. Okay, thank you very much po. And to our 7 Balik scientists who just give us their messages, again, thank you very much po. So for now, we're almost at the end of our activity, but before that, joining us in the last portion to formally close this quite special afternoon indeed is our very own ITDI Director, Dr. Annabel V. Briones, the lady behind and facilitating the implementation of the initial research projects of the VIP program. Ma'am?
Dok Annabel, nakamute ka.
A safe and healthy afternoon to everyone. Also good morning and good evening. It feels great to see brilliant-minded people gather in one venue, destined to be part of the DOST VIP program that will make a difference in Filipinos' lives and to the world. So finally, we were able to gather all the 7 Balik scientists kasi we planned this along ahead, but at the time, there's no common time for them to meet and also with our DOST officials. So today is a blessed day that we are all gathered here for this very significant day of welcoming the 7 Balik scientists. I would like to express my sincerest thanks and appreciation to all our 7 Balik scientists who are working with us for the DOST VIP program, to our DOST Secretary, Fortunato T. de la Peña, our DOST Undersecretary for Research and Development, Dr. Rowena Cristina L. Guevara, Dr. Jaime C. Montoya, the Executive Director of PCHRD, and Dr. Reynaldo B. Ebora, Executive Director of Picard, and also to our co-project implementers, Dr. Dimamay of the St. Luke's Medical Center, Dr. Malbas and Dr. Ikatlo of the Research Institute for Tropical Medicine. So they are also part of the VIP program. For your presence today and for your utmost desire to bring this great cause into realization. And my special thanks also to the Balik Scientists Program, the Secretariat, and my ITDI family, and also the ITDI VIP team. To our Balik scientists, Dr. Chodoro Fajardo Jr., Dr. Mayra Hosmelio, Dr. Vic Elag, Dr. Christine Layson, Dr. Cesar Nadala, Dr. Lou Nadala, and Dr. Homer Pantoa. Your expertise is valuable in the pursuit of establishing the Virology and Vaccine Institute of the Philippines. Your sense of mission in joining the program is but priceless. And we at the DOST ITDI, with our scientists and researchers, are truly grateful and look forward to a harmonious and fruitful collaboration with all of you in implementing the initial R&D projects of the VIP. As this VIP program progresses, with your guidance and expertise, we are now starting the implementation of the 8 R&D projects. For ITDI, we have 6, 1 for RITM, and 1 for St. Luke's Medical Center. So, as we work together as a team, we could empower each other by sharing together and turning experiments and research outputs into a vaccine that will protect our people from dreadful diseases and infections, thereby strengthening their immunity and saving lives. And thank you once again to our Balik scientists. We trust, and in God's faith, the bill for the establishment of the Virology and Vaccine Institute of the Philippines will be passed. Thank you very much.
All right, so thank you very much, Doc Annabelle, for that message. Okay, so I would also like to thank everyone who are with us today, to our 7 Balik scientists, Dr. Teodoro M. Fajardo Jr., Dr. Mayra T Hosmelio, Dr. Leo De Vico Elag, Dr. Cristina Laura M. Layson, Dr. Elpidio Cesar B. Nadala Jr., Dr. Lourdes M. Nadala, and Dr. Homer D. Pantua. Of course, to our PCHRD Executive Director, Dr. Jaime C. Montoya, Picard Executive Director, Dr. Reynaldo V. Iborra, our DOST Undersecretary for R&D, Dr. Rowena Cristina L. Guevara, and to our DOST Secretary, Fortunato T. De La Peña, for lending us your time to take part of this activity. Again, we just have brought you the DOST Balik Scientist, courtesy call to the DOST Secretary.
Just a
So
word before we close.
Yes,
Can I just have a few words? First of all, it's really heartening to note the decisions made by our Balik scientists, and the messages that they have expressed are really inspiring. I listened very well to the appeal of Dr. Pantua regarding further support coming from government, and we will do our best to be able to do that. And we are, of course, trying to get as much support from other agencies also. Well, we have DOH, which has been our co-worker in many areas, DBM for the budgetary support, and even with the public works and highways for the facilities. Now, let me just mention this as a, shall we say, to be realistic, I was listening to one message of a Balik scientist, and one of the things he said was the first time he came and arrived as a Balik scientist, he was shall we say, he had an adjustment process. First of all, he said the the bureaucracy is, of course, something that is very challenging. The procurement law is something that is really making work slower than it should be. And just to cite some of the things that we might expect to encounter along the way. But maybe as a last request, I would like to ask either Yusek Gib or Dr. Montoya or Director Briones, can we have an idea as to with whom will our Balik scientists be working. I'm sure that there are local scientists and local institutions here that they will be working more closely with. So is it ITDI, is it Picard, or maybe you can mention particular names if possible. Who can give me an idea with whom they will be working? Yusek Geb,
Sec Boy, the Balik scientists were requested by Director Annabelle, and she could be explaining.
Okay, Director Annabelle.
Sir, as I've mentioned, we have 8 R&D projects under the Virology program, the VIP program, and 6 of that is being implemented by ITDI. And the 7 Balik scientists are already engaged in the implementation of the 7 projects. And we also have 1 project from RITM and 1 from St. Luke's. And aside from that, we could also collaborate. We also have our local collaborators, the University of Santo Tomas, UP, for this. So,
let me be more specific. For example, Dr. Elag will be working with whom?
He is engaged in almost of the 6 projects, but right now we are in close guidance with him. The project 1 is on viruses on animals that can be transferred to humans to prevent future epidemics or pandemics. So we are also working on the antibodies for vaccine development.
Dr. Pajardo.
Dr. Pardo is also our collaborator on Project 1 for the collection, isolation and purification of viruses from chickens for influenza virus and coronavirus also from the wild cats.
Okay. How about Dr. Pantua? We have
Dr. Pantua
is already.
Yes, sir. Is involved on Project 5, which is the rapid detection kit for the ASF virus.
Okay. So more with which agency yun? ITDI pa rin?
Yes po. ITDI pa rin po.
Okay. And then how about Dr. Mayra?
Dr. Mai, it's on Project 1 also, and also with I think also in Project 2 and 3. The 2 and 3, it's more on food and waterborne pathogen detection and their treatment.
Okay. Dr. Layson.
Dr. Layson is also guiding us on the collection and the collection on the viruses from the chicken. So also working with Project 1 and Project also in Project 2 and 3. Mm-hmm. And Dr. Nadala also, both husband and wife, also in 2 and 3 and 4. And
these are more on viruses attacking animals.
Which one, sir? Project 2 and 3?
Oo, yung sinabi mo.
2 and 3, sir, is more on the pathogen. One is for the multi-drug resistant, some activities on this for bacteriophage. And then the other one would be the pathogens from waste water.
Aling project yung led by RITM?
Sir, the RITM would be the Project 8, production of COVID-19 antibody test, enzyme-linked immunosorbent assay, ELISA-based kit, or serological, medyo mahaba, ELISA to augment test to check for the presence of antibodies to SARS-CoV in blood samples.
And how about St. Luke's?
For St. Luke's would be the local COVID-19 vaccine research, development, and production.
O sige, bigyan mo na lang
Andito
ako
po sila, sir. They're also invited.
bigyan mo na lang ako ng matrix. Kasi some of them are working on more than one project. Ano?
Opo, sir, and also the assignments of the Balik Scientists.
I am just asking that because most of the time, media interviews me, and sometimes I caught
unaware. Yes.
Yung assignments. I'm not really asking that to monitor your performance or whatever. It's really to give the correct information to media. Oo. Salamat po. Salamat.
Thank you din po, sir.
Thank you very much, Secretary and Director Annabelle, for that. Moving on, before we formally end our session for today, I would like to request everyone here on Zoom to kindly open your cameras for us to take a group picture. Syempre, hindi natin palalampasin tong pagkakataon na to have a picture with you. And po, so our technical team will be taking pictures with us. Kuya Ken, ako magbibilang. So, tingin lang po tayo sa ating camera for 1, 2, 3, 4. Smile po. Again, isa pa po. 1, 2, 3, 4. Isa pa po. 1, 2, 3. Yan. Kuya Ken, okay na po ba? I think mukhang okay na po tayo sa ating photo op. Again, thank you very much, everyone, for lending us your time for this to take part of this activity. And of course, I would like to thank the VIP team, who is the organizer of this event at DOST ITDI, and in collaboration with the BSP Secretariat. Also, special thanks to our PMISD, who is the technical head for this activity. Again, this is Nam Ganatisi, your host for this afternoon's event. Have an exciting weekend ahead, everyone. Thank you and keep safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.